was in place, the people were freer. They could leave their property, work in the fields, and so on. In short, the proper amount of government makes everyone freer. There are some who advocate anarchy, however, not because they want no government, but because they don't like what they have. They use anarchy as a tool for revolutionary change. The condition of anarchy is very much like a vacuum where something rushes in to fill it. These calculating anarchists work to break down the existing government with rioting, killing, looting, and terrorism. Tragically, the people living in such chaos often go to those best able to put an end to it and beg them to take over and restore order. And who is best able to put an end to the chaos? The very people who started it. The anarchists who created the problem then create a government run by them, an oligarchy, where they have total power. This is exactly what happened in Russia that led to Lenin taking total power, and in Germany where Hitler's brown shirts created the chaos that brought him to power. But anarchy isn't a stable form of government. It's a quick transition from something that exists to something desired by the power-hungry. It's a temporary condition, and because it isn't permanent, we eliminate it as well. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratein, meaning to rule. Democracy, therefore, means the rule of the people, majority rule. This, of course, sounds good, but suppose the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children. Obviously, there has to be a limit. The flaw in democracy is that the majority isn't restrained. If more than half the people can be persuaded to want something in a democracy, they rule. What about republic? Well, that comes from the Latin, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public. It means the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is limited by law, leaving the people alone. America's founders had a clean slate to write on. They could have set up an oligarchy. In fact, there were some who wanted George Washington to be their king. But the Founding Fathers knew history, and they chose to give us the rule of law in a republic, not the rule of a majority in a democracy. Why? Let's demonstrate the difference in the setting of the Old West. Consider a lynch mob in a democracy. 35 horseback riders chase one lone gunman. They catch him, and they vote 35-1 to hang him. Democracy has triumphed, and there's one less gunman to contend with. Now consider the same scenario in a republic. The 35 horseback riders catch the gunman and vote 35-1 to hang him, but the sheriff arrives, and he says, "You can't kill him. He's got his right to a fair trial." So they take the gunman back to town. A jury of his peers is selected, and they hear the evidence and the defense, and they decide if he shall hang. Does the jury even decide by majority rule? No, it has to be unanimous, or he goes free. The rights of the government aren't subject to majority rule, but to the law. This is the essence of a republic. Many Americans would be surprised to learn that the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution, nor does it appear in any of the constitutions of the 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison, rightly known as the father of the Constitution, wrote in essay number 10 of the Federalist Papers, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Alexander Hamilton agreed, and he stated, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." The founders had good reason to look upon democracy with contempt, because they knew that the democracies in the early Greek city-states produced some of the wildest excesses of government imaginable. In every case, they ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. During that period in Greece, there was a man named Solon, who urged creation of a fixed body of law not subject to majority whims. But where the Greeks never adopted Solon's wise counsel, the Romans did. Based on what they knew of Solon's laws, they created the 12 tables of the Roman law and in effect built a republic that limited government power and left the people alone. Since government was limited, the people were free to produce, with the understanding that they could keep the fruits of their labor. In time, Rome became wealthy and the envy of the world. In the midst of plenty, however, the Roman people forgot what freedom entailed. They forgot that the essence of freedom is the proper limitation of government. When government power grows, people freedom recedes. Once the Romans dropped their guard, power-seeking politicians began to exceed the powers granted them in the Roman constitution. Some learned that they could elect politicians who would use government power to take property from some and give it to others. Agriculture subsidies were introduced, followed by housing and welfare programs. Inevitably, taxes rose and controls over the private sector were imposed. Soon, a number of Rome's producers could no longer make ends meet, and they went on the dole. Productivity declined, shortages developed, and mobs began roaming the streets, demanding bread and circuses from the government. Many were induced to trade freedom for security. Eventually, the whole system came crashing down. They went from a republic to a democracy, and ended up with an oligarchy under a progression of the Caesars. Thus, democracy itself is not a stable form of government. Instead, it is the gradual transition from limited government to the unlimited rule of an oligarchy. Knowing this, we as Americans are ultimately left with only two choices. We can keep our republic, as Franklin put it, or we will inevitably end up with an oligarchy, a tyranny of the elite.
Now, I'm just going to say in as nice as a way as I can, hey Stabby, welcome to the chat. That guy was full of shit. Full of shit. So here's the thing. Here's what you're going to find. These little, I don't know who these little bitches are on the internet that want to attack words. Okay, this isn't a democracy, it's a republic. That's true. But it's a democratically elected government. Okay, everybody slow the fuck down. We're not picking on words anymore. Let's stop the picking on words. This is ridiculous. This is the way for someone to try to establish dominance in an argument so they can feed you a line of bullshit. This man basically just equated democracy to chaos. Give power to the people and you will have chaos. But then he said, once you have the chaos, you're ultimately going to end up in an oligarchy. So democracy, it equals oligarchy. What? Really? All right, so let's back it up here a second. Hamilton said in the Federalist Papers that, and he was one who believed basically in an oligarchy. He wanted the rich to be in control. Okay? He's the one who said to protect people's rights and freedoms, you have to. Yet this guy, one pitch, this one simple pitch, completely contradicted himself by saying if you have no government, you can't have any kind of order or you can't have freedoms. Then he said if you have a big government, you're not going to have any freedoms. That's what he was saying. Once the government gains power, you lose your freedoms. Now, that's not true. What is true is that there's a constant tug of war going on between freedom and security. When people are willing to give up their freedom to get some security, they will do that. And that's when they're scared. When things start to level out and there's no real outside threat, people start pulling for their freedom again and giving up some of the security. This tug of war is probably never going to end, no matter what form of government. Even if a new one comes along, there will be this balance between freedom and security that is always tugging at one another. Because you can't have too much of one without trampling on the other. But this guy's full of shit. So he's basically playing with words. That's not important. I mean, you take a look at the simple description of democracy in Wikipedia, and people say, don't use Wikipedia as a source. Anybody can write that, but as long as they have sources, they're good on my list, and they do. And here's the important thing to remember. Democracy is a system of government in which all the people of a state or polity are involved in making decisions about its affairs, typically by voting to elect representatives to a parliament or similar assembly. And then if you go down some for the history, the term originates from Greek, rule of the people. Now, here's the question. You want to answer the question? Look at the big picture here in America. Do the people choose what's going to happen in this country. They choose representatives. They do not choose dictators. They do not choose royal family members. They choose representatives. What does representative mean? You want to play with words? Let's play with words. It means someone who is going to stand in the place of and with the will of someone else. Your attorney is your representative in court. So, are you telling me that because we have an elected government, the people don't rule? They can vote people out. They can vote people in. They can petition these people. All that's protected in the Constitution. So who's running the country? I just don't understand. You know, he was essentially attacking the word use. America's not a democracy, it's a republic. Yes, it is technically a republic under democratic rule. I mean, that's so fucking petty. I'm tired of the petty arguments. That's why we can't get anywhere with these arguments. Call it whatever you want. We know what it is. The people elect representatives. I think we need to go to the popular vote, to be honest with you. But the Electoral College generally, I hope I said that right, Electoral College. I think I said it right. Generally is the representative of the people as well. But there are loopholes there, and that leaves an opening that I'm not comfortable with for someone to go into office that was not elected by the people. That's a little scary to me. But I think we probably will go to a popular vote. Give it 20 years. You can mark that one down on my predictions list. I mean, it just takes away a lot of doubt, you know. But the whole reason that was put into place is because the people weren't fully trusted. The people, the mob. Yeah, angry mob of people. We can't have them deciding everything. Anyway, there were 4 things that this political scientist Larry Diamond listed. And this is according... This is what a democracy is. Okay, number 1, a political system for choosing and replacing the government through free and fair elections. Do we have that? Yes, we do. 2, the active participants of the people as citizens. The active participation of the people as citizens in politics and civic life. Do we have that? Yes, we do. Number 3, protection of the human rights of all citizens. Do we have that? Well, ostensibly we do. It's written. It's not always practiced, but yes, we do. 4, and finally, a rule of law in which the laws and procedures apply equally to all citizens. Do we have that? Yes, at least written. In practice, not so much. So it is a democracy. The only time you have to leave the word democracy and go to a republic is when you're getting into the technical description of the arrangement of the government. I'm just tired of this stupid fight about, is this a democracy or a republic? You know, and here's the problem. People are connecting these structural rules to Democrats and Republicans. And anybody who knows anything about American history knows that the 2 major political parties in this country today have basically taken reverse polar opposites on civil issues, as well as government spending and defense issues. They've kind of done a swivel thing, which probably hit its peak of transition right around 1900. So let's take a look at it for what it is. Forget about, are you a Democrat, are you a Republican, and look at what it means to be a Democrat. What does it mean to be a Republican? If you can't agree with too much of either of the mainline ideas in those political philosophies, you're an independent or something. Yeah, you might be a statist, or you might be a libertarian, or you might just be an independent. You might be a communist. I mean, some people actually like communism. Some people love socialism. Don't be afraid to admit whatever it is you are. I'm a classical independent. I find myself horizontally between libertarian and statist, just about dead center. And then that's vertically. Horizontally, I find myself almost dead center with a slight tilt to the left, more for the people than for government control. And I believe you do need a little bit bigger government to protect the rights of all citizens. When that government steps out of line, that has nothing to do with size, in my view. That has to do with power structure. So I'm not worried about, I'm just talking about representatives and government officials that are in charge of these programs. And if we don't have the programs, we fall apart. We start falling toward anarchy. The guy tried to say democracy is 35 people riding down a guy in the Wild West saying, let's vote. 36 people, let's vote. 35-1, we vote to hang him. That's not a democracy. That's not a democracy. You might find some sort of technical derivative of the words to say that the people rule without representatives, but it's not what a democracy is, not in today's political terminology. The term originates from the Greek, rule of the people. Now we have people that we've put into power, and law is